Okay, review. 5x to the second minus 40x equals 0. So I got to know how many answers I have to find. There are two answers because of the x to the second. You have x to the second and you've also got x to the first, so you need to apply your factoring properties. Okay. So you're set with 0. That's good, so you can make the wall and know how many terms you have. You have two terms. So since I have two terms, that's a binomial, so I factor out the GCF, then I see if I have a difference of perfect squares. So I diagram my steps. GCF, and then difference of perfect squares. Okay, so I have the x on the last term. I do not have the negative in the front, 5 and 40. So here's 5, here's 40, so it'd be a 5. So 5x is your greatest common factor. You go up and divide by the 5x. 5 divided by 5 is 1. X second divided by x. That cancels and you put an x alongside your 1. Negative 40 divided by 5 is negative 8. Okay, so it'd be minus 8. And then x divided by x, you can cancel it there or you can go off to the side, but you don't put an x alongside your 8. So my GCF, I bring that over for later. Then I cross it out and I see if 1x minus 8 is a difference of two perfect squares. So it's a minus, so it's a difference. You take the 1 away, you don't need a 1 coefficient. X is not a perfect square, it has to be the second power, so that's a no. So if it's no, you put that x minus 8 right alongside your 5x, and now you're ready to solve using the zero product property. Okay, so 5x could equal 0, or x minus 8 could equal 0. So we divide by 5 on both sides. 0 divided by 5 is 0. Over here we need to plus 8, and x equals 8. 0 and 8. Okay, number 2, x to the second power plus 5x minus 14 equals 0. So there are two answers to that problem. We have x to the second and we have x to the first, so we have to apply our factoring properties. So find your 0, it's there. Then 1. Now I'm dealing with a trinomial, 3 terms. Okay, that's GCF and the table. Okay, so we break down this trinomial. There's no letter on the last term. There's no negative in front. Then 1, 5, and 14 would just be in row 1. Okay. Okay, so that means I will not do that step. I'm not going to put the GCF here. A, B, C. So I take positive 1 times negative 14. Well, that's negative 14. Okay. So that's a mismatch. Means we need a positive and a negative in these parentheses I'm trying to create. And I'm adding to whatever the b is, which in this case is positive 5. So I start dividing. 14 divided by 1 is 14. That adds to negative 13, so it's not that. 14 divided by 2 is 7. You add those, that's negative 5, so you can stop dividing, but to make it positive 5, you just go plus 2, plus 7, minus 2. Okay, so the A is 1x to the second. You see that here. So when you make your parentheses, you're going to put the minus 2 and the plus 7. So you're going to put xx, and then you apply a 1 in front of your x's. And then simplify if you can. You really can't because 1 and 2 only are in the first row, and if you divide by 1, they just stay the same. So you take the 1 off the x, and you have x minus 2. And the 1 and the 7 are only in row 1, so 1x plus 7. Okay, take the 1 off, and you have x plus 7. So you have f1, f2. So x minus 2 could equal 0, or x plus 7 could equal 0. So we get rid of our minus 2 with a plus 2, and x would equal 2. get rid of your plus 7 with a minus 7, and 0 minus 7 is negative 7. Okay, positive 2 and negative 7. Okay, number 3. 10x to the second power minus 19x plus 7. So there are two answers. You have x to the second and you have x, so you have to factor because you can't combine the x's. So you find your 0, make your line, and you have 3 terms to factor. So 3 terms GCF and the t-table. Okay, so you do not have the variable in the final term. You don't have a negative in front. Then 10, 19, and 7. So in row 7, no. 7 again's up in the first row, so it would just be a 1. So we are not going to do that step again. So ABC. 10 times 7 is 70. It's positive 70. So the signs have to match. So I put 2 signs that match. And I have to add the factors to come up to negative 19. 70 divided by 1 is 70. That's negative 71 when you add. It can't be that. 70 divided by 2 is 35. That's negative 37. It cannot be that. And 70 divided by 3 is a decimal, so we skip that. Decimal, skip it. 5 and 14, so I put 5 and 14. So negative 5 plus negative 14 is negative 19, so it's exactly what I want with the signs. My x second is multiplied by 10, so at least one of the factors will have to be simplified, if not both of them. So you put in your minus 5, your minus 14, and you go xx. Remember, when factoring a trinomial, you don't try to break the 10 down. You put 10, 10. So 10 and 5, those are both in row 5. You need to divide those down. I don't care if you get the same answer. I want the factors simplified. You leave that 10x minus 5, I'm counting it wrong. 10 and 14. So 10, no. 10, 14, so it'll be 2. This is going to be 5x minus 7. So 2x minus 1, 5x minus 7. Okay, so F1, F2. So 2x minus 1 equals 0, 5x minus 7 equals 0. So you got to add the 1 first, then divide by the 2. Okay, 1 divided by 2 is a decimal. If you want to put 0.5, that's fine. If you want a second PRB it, it's going to be 1/2. If you want to put 0.5, I'm fine with that. Plus 7, 5 times x equals 7. 7 divided by 5 is 1.4. If you want a second PRB it comes to 1 2/5. Okay, I'm fine with 1.42 as an answer. Okay, we're not doing number 4. Okay, number 5, x to the second power minus 5x equals negative 2x plus 54. So there are 2 answers for x. We have x second and we have x. Actually 2 of them, so we have to apply our factoring principles. But you don't know how many terms because you don't have your 0. So you put 0 and you need to clear out both of these terms separately. So you add 2x. Do you have an x on that side where you can add to? Yeah, the negative 5. Then minus 54. So 54 is a constant. There's no constants over here, so it has to hang out. Okay, so I draw out my spaces. Equals 0. So x second, we have the 1. X, we need to take negative 5 and add 2. Negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. And then minus 54 means that's a negative. Now you can make your wall, and you see there's 3 terms. So GCFT once again. That's probably the most common type, is the 3. But there are some on this with not 3. There's no variable, there's no negative. 1, 3, and 54 would just be 1 because the smallest number is 1. So when your GCF's 1, we're not going to do that. Then A, B, C. So 1 times negative 54 is negative 54. So that makes a mismatch. So put a positive and a negative. And you have to add the factors to try to get to negative 3. 54 divided by 1 is 54. Nope, that's negative 53. 54 divided by 2 is 27. Nope. 54 divided by 3 is 18. 3 plus negative 18 is negative 15. You're still too wide of the mark. 4 is a decimal. 5 is a decimal. 6 and 9. Okay, 6 plus negative 9 is negative 3. So you set your parentheses in there. And A is, there's the x second with a 1. Okay, so we put plus 6 minus 9. Then the x second goes xx. And then we apply the 1 coefficient in front of our x's. So 1 and 6 can't really be simplified. You can divide by 1. It's in the first row on your multiplication table. So you have x plus 6. 1 and 9, they're only in the first row on the chart, so that won't simplify either. Okay, so x minus 9. And now we have f1 and f2. So x plus 6 could equal 0, or x minus 9 could equal 0. So we minus our 6. 0 minus 6 is negative 6. Then we plus our 9. 0 plus 9 is 9. So negative 6 and 9 are the two answers. Okay, number 6, a little bit of a change here. 2x to the third power minus 16x to the second power plus 24x equals 0. So now there are 3 answers because you have x to the third power. You also have x to the second and you have x. So all these different types of x you have to factor to solve the equation. So you are set. That's good. I don't need to do what I did up here. And how many terms you got? You have 3 again, so it's going to be the same setup. Greatest common factor, followed by your t-table. Okay, so there is a variable at the end. We need to place that. There's no negative. 2, 16, and 24. Here's 2 in its own row. 16, 24, so it'd be 2. So you're doing it. So you need to divide by 2x. 2 divided by 2 is 1. X third divided by x. Cancels and you're left with 2 x's, so it's x to the second power. Negative 16 divided by 2 is negative 8. Then you got to divide the x's. That would leave you with x. Positive 24 divided by 2 is 12, and then x divided by itself just will cancel. Okay, so you place the 2x here and then cross it out so you're not distracted, just like always, and then ABC it. So 1 times 12 is 12. It's positive, so that's a match. Okay, put the 2 signs in that match. We're adding to make negative 8. 12 divided by 1 is 12. That's negative 13. 12 divided by 2 is 6, and that's negative 8. Okay. So 1x to the second is your a. X second has a 1. So you go minus 2 minus 6, and then xx, and then 1, 1. 1 and 2 would just be in row 1, so that's not going to be able to be simplified. Take the 1 off, though. And then 1 and 6, same thing. They'd be in the 1 row, so you can divide by 1, but it's really just going to stay the same. And x minus 6. Now, every one of these parentheses contains the x, so f1, f2, f3. So 2x could equal 0, x minus 2 could equal 0, x minus 6 could equal 0. So divide by 2 and x equals 0. Plus 2, x equals 2, plus 6, x would equal 6. You don't need to divide on these. X equals 2, x equals 6. Okay, next problem. 2x to the third power minus 98x equals 0. So there are three answers. You have x to the third. You don't have x to the second, and then you have x. So you're going to have to factor still. So is the 0 there? Yep, you're set. Now go to the other side and count how many terms you have. 1, 2. So now you have 2 by GCF DOPS. Okay, do I have x on the end? I do. Do I have the negative in front? I don't. 2 and 98. Well, you kind of run out of room on the 2 before you can even get into the 98 range. So what you do is you take the 98 you're trying to get to, or you're not seeing, divided by the row you're looking at, which is 2. If this is a decimal, I'm going to circle that 2 and put it here. If it's not a decimal, excuse me, if it's a decimal, I have to go up to 1. And then, okay, so it's 98 divided by 2 is a decimal. Nope. By the way, if it's even, it's going to divide by 2. So it's 49. So you circle that 2. That's what you put there. That's how you handle it when you run out of space. Okay, so go up and divide by 2x. So that's 1. X divided by x is x to the second. Negative 98 divided by 2 is negative 49. And then x divided by itself cancels. Okay, now you bring that 2x over. And then in the DOPS, you definitely have your minus. That's good. You can take the 1 off as it's a 1. X second is xx, and 49 down this row is 7 times 7. So xx, 7, 7. Okay, so now we took that and we broke it down. So it's x plus 7 and x minus 7. Remember, if you can't do the DOPS, and that goes beside your 2x, but I could do the DOPS, so instead of writing that, I write the 2 parentheses that I made it into. So F1, F2, F3. So 2x could equal 0. X plus 7 could equal 0. X minus 7 could equal 0. Divide by 2, divide by 2. X is 0. Minus 7, x equals negative 7. Plus 7, x equals 7. Okay. Okay. And the last problem before we get into the story problems. 4x to the third power minus 8x to the second power minus 9x plus 18 equals 0. So you have x to the third. You have x to the second, and you have x, so you're going to have to factor. Now, is 0 there? Yes, it is, so you're set. Now, how many terms do you have on the other side? You have 4. So with 4 terms, that's a quadnomial. You're doing the grouping, just like this, and the DOPS. So you set up, just make a big box for grouping. And then you put parentheses plus the parentheses, and the same thing with the GCF lines outside. Then the little parentheses and the big parentheses, you don't need that line. Okay. And then this big parentheses could quite possibly be a difference of perfect squares. Okay. Okay, so grouping, you put the 4x to the third minus your 8x to the second, then your negative 9x with your plus 18. GCF, and I do them two at a time. So in this first parentheses, we do have a variable, and it's to the second power. We do not have the negative in front, then 4 and 8 would be in row 4. Okay, I do not have the variable. I do have the negative. Okay, 9 and 18. So here's 9 and 18 in row 9. So now you go up and divide by the 4x to the second and the negative 9. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. X third divided by x second. We'd be left with x. Negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. X second divided by x second. That cancels out completely, and you're left with just a 2. And this is going to be the same thing. It's going to be 1x minus 2. Okay, so these parentheses both contain the same expression, so those go out into the little parentheses, 1x minus 2. And then you put your 4x to the second with your minus 9. Now this first one, you take the 1 away and you just bring the x minus 2 over. But this one, I don't put this beside it because this can go into a difference of perfect squares. Okay, you can't delete the 4 like you can a 1. 4 you have to deal with, so 4 is 2 times 2. And x to the second's x times x, so you attach an x on each of your 2's. Then across the minus 9, that's 3 by 3. So 2x, 2x, 3, 3. So we have 2x plus 3 and 2x minus 3. Okay, so F1, F2, F3. So x minus 2 could equal 0. The 2x plus 3 could equal 0. And the 2x minus 3 could equal 0. So plus 2 minus 2, you plus 2. X is 2. Here you have times 2 and plus 3, so you minus your 3 first. That's negative 3. Negative 3 divided by 2 is a decimal. You can put negative 1.5. If you go second PRB, that's negative 1 and 1/2. And the other one, you have times 2 and minus 3, so plus 3, that's 3. And you divide by 2. 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. If you want a second PRB it, that would be positive 1 and 1/2. There we have it. Okay, to the story problems. A soccer ball is kicked from the ground with an initial upward velocity of 88 feet per second. After how many seconds the ball land on the ground? So you're dealing with your two units as feet and seconds. Seconds is x, feet is y. So per feet per second is 88 times x. But we don't make a table out of this because it goes up and then back down, because we can't really operate with a table then. Okay, so you make your parabola. Does anything come before the 88? I don't think it does, so 0 feet. And then on the ground, that would be 0 feet as well. Now we can map our equation out. Okay, gravity occupies this. It's pulled up and down by the force of gravity. So negative 16. Then the 88 occupies the x space. And then we have 0 here. That occupies your constant space, but since it's 0, it's nothing. Okay. Now 0 feet equals y, so this goes in for y. So we have negative 16x to the second power plus 88x equals 0. So now I can solve the equation. There are two answers. You have x to the second along with x, so you're factoring. Okay, you are set. And you have two terms on the other side, so it's GCF DOPS. DOPS standing for difference of perfect squares. We'll be lining things up over here. So we do have an x at the end, and we have a negative in the front. Now we have to find the GCF of 16 and 88. Well, 88's not in 16's row. Here's 16 and 88. They're both in the 8th row. So we need to divide by negative 8x. So that's positive 2. And then x second divided by x. Remember, that's going to be x. 88 divided by negative 8 is negative 11. And then when I divide the x by the x, they just cancel out. So don't put x on your 11. So you bring that negative 8x over here, just like the regular problems. And then you see if that's a difference of perfect squares. Well, right away, the minus is there, but 2 is not a perfect square. Okay? So no. So when that's no, you put the 2x minus 11 right beside your negative 8x. So F1, F2. Say negative 8x could equal 0, 2x minus 11 could equal 0. So you divide both sides by your negative 8, and that's 0. Then come over here, you got times 2 minus 11, so plus 11. 2 times x equals 11, then divide by 2. 11 divided by 2 is 5.5. You can put that, if you second PRB it, it's 5.5. I'm fine with 5.5 though. So 5.5 is your seconds. Okay, next problem. Again, I wrote this wrong again. 96 feet is where he starts. Okay, that should come before the 16, not after it. Cliff diver jumps from a ledge with an initial upward velocity of 16 feet per second. The diver is 96 feet from the ground when he jumps. After how many seconds will he hit water? Okay, so the same setup as the last one, feet and seconds. Seconds is x, feet is y. So he goes up. Oops, sorry, I got to get my feet per second. The feet per second is 16 times x, and that diver goes up and he goes down, pulled by gravity. Okay, so remember I wanted this 96 feet to come before the 16, so he starts at 96 feet this time and he enters at 0 feet in the end. So when I map this out, negative 16 is my gravity, 16, 96. This goes in for the constant, then you can't delete it. So 0 feet equals y. So we have negative 16x to the second plus 16x plus 96 equals 0. So that's going to be 2 answers to the equation. We have x to the second and we have x, so we have to apply the factoring properties. And you can because you're set. And you have 3 terms this time as opposed to 2 on the last problem, so now you go GCF T table. Okay, so in the GCF, we don't have x on the last term. We do have negative in the front. 16, 16, 96. So I look in the 16th row and here's 96, so it's 16. So you're just dividing by negative 16, not x, because you don't have x in that final term. So it's going to be 1. You're not dividing by an x down here, so you'll keep that as x to the second. 16 divided by negative 16 is negative 1. You're not dividing by x, so you keep that x. 96 divided by negative 16 is negative 6. So you kick his sorry butt over here, and then you go ABC. 1 times negative 6 is negative 6, so it's a mismatch. Positive, negative. And you're adding to try to get your B, which is negative 1. Okay, so ABC. You're always adding to the B. Okay, start dividing. 1 and 6. Nope, that's negative 5. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 2 plus negative 3 is negative 1. So A is 1x to the second plus 2 minus 3. X, and then 1, 1. Okay, can't really simplify these. You can divide by 1, but it would just stay the same. Take the 1 off the x, and we have x plus 2. Same thing here, 1 and 3 are in row 1, so it would stay 1x minus 3. Take the 1 off, and you have x minus 3. Then f. No, this does not get an f. It doesn't have x. Cross it off. f1, f2. Because remember, we only need 2 answers. So x plus 2 could equal 0. X minus 3 could equal 0. So I subtract 2, and that's negative 2. Then I plus 3, and that's 3. 3 is your higher value, so that's the seconds. Okay, last problem. Find the area of the shaded region. So you see that right there. It's all set up for you too. Okay, so you have 2, and you got x for the shaded part. So you got to find what x is. So with the shape, you want to make a big column and a little column for your side work. So you set up the length width parentheses equals area. That's the area of a rectangle. Length times width. So I know the area is 20, but that's for the white part. So x plus 1 is going to be my length. Now I don't know the width here on the side. We'll look on the other side. You see x, okay? So I'll fill that in with x. Now this has to be multiplied out before you solve it. Okay, so you distribute the 1x and the 1 separately. 1x to 1x, 1 to 1x. 1x to the second, 1x. So if you slot it, you're going to get 1 and 1. You can't combine those. So 1x to the second plus 1x and then 20. Okay, so now we solve it. There's 2 answers that we would find in the equation. You have x to the second and you have x, so you have to factor. Okay. You need your 0 to factor. You take out the 20, and that can't go here or here, so it goes in the hangout. Then I slot it. So x second I have a 1, x I have a 1, and then the constant's negative 20. Okay, so we see there's 3 terms, so GCF table. Okay, so I do not see the x. I don't see a negative. 1 and 20 would just be 1, so the GCF we're not going to do. Then ABC. 1 times negative 20 is negative 20. So that's a mismatch. We are adding to the B, which is positive 1. And now you start dividing. 1 and 20, that adds to negative 19. It can't be that. 20 divided by 2 is 10. That adds to negative 8. It can't be that. 20 divided by 3 is a decimal. 20 divided by 4 is 5. You add those and it's negative 1, but to make it positive 1, you go in here and plus 5 minus 4. Now the A, the x to the second coefficient, is 1. So minus 4 plus 5, and then x, 1, 1. Now 1 and 4 are only going to be in row 1, so it'll stay 1x minus 4. You can take the 1 off. 1 and 5 are only in the row, so you take the 1x plus 5, you take the 1 off. So we didn't do a GCF, so I just lined the x minus 4 with my x plus 5 equals 0. F1, F2. Then you plus 4, you get 4. Then you minus 5, and you get negative 5. So you take the positive to the top, and 2 times 4 is 8.